There's a moment that arrives quietly, almost like a shift in gravity, when you realize that the thing everyone else is avoiding is exactly what you're moving toward. The cold shower in the morning, the difficult conversation, the workout that makes your muscles scream, the silence that forces you to sit with your own thoughts. While others choose the path of least resistance, you find yourself drawn to the path of most growth. And somewhere in that choice, you feel something that doesn't make sense to people who seek comfort. You feel alive. You've probably felt it. That strange pull toward things that hurt, not because you enjoy pain, but because you've learned something most people spend their lives running from. That discomfort is where change lives, that ease keeps you stagnant, that the only way to become more is to embrace the feeling of being stretched beyond what's comfortable. People who embrace discomfort aren't masochists. They're not punishing themselves or trying to prove something through suffering. They're just wired to see discomfort differently. Where others see threat, they see opportunity. Where others feel resistance, they feel invitation. Where others run, they lean in. And that fundamental reframe changes everything about how they move through the world. There's a psychology behind this that goes deeper than discipline, because embracing discomfort isn't about forcing yourself to do hard things through sheer willpower. It's about rewiring your relationship with the sensation of difficulty itself. It's about learning that the feeling of discomfort, the tightness in your chest, the urge to quit, the voice that says this is too hard, isn't a stop sign. It's a signal that you're growing. Psychologists call this distress tolerance, the ability to withstand negative emotions and physical sensations without needing to escape them immediately. And for most people, that tolerance is low. The moment something feels uncomfortable, they seek relief, they quit, they distract themselves, they numb, they avoid. But people who embrace discomfort have trained themselves to sit with that feeling, to let it exist without running, to recognize it as temporary, as survivable, as the price of becoming more than they currently are. Most people who embrace discomfort didn't start that way. They weren't born loving the burn or craving the challenge. They developed it through experience, sometimes through necessity, through lives that demanded they endure things they couldn't escape, through childhoods where comfort wasn't an option, so they learned to find strength in survival instead. And that strength became a template. If I can survive that, I can survive this. If I made it through that discomfort, this one won't break me either. But it's not always born from hardship. Sometimes it's discovered through deliberate practice, through choosing one uncomfortable thing and surviving it and realizing that the fear was worse than the reality, that the anticipation of pain was more unbearable than the pain itself. And that realization creates a crack in the belief system, a small opening that says maybe discomfort isn't the enemy, maybe it's just information. Maybe it's just the feeling of your capacity expanding. There's a particular kind of confidence that comes from embracing discomfort. Not the loud, performative confidence that needs validation, but the quiet internal knowing that you can handle hard things. Because every time you choose discomfort over ease, you're proving something to yourself. You're building evidence that you're stronger than your instincts want you to believe, that you can override the part of your brain that screams for comfort and choose growth instead. And that evidence compounds. Each cold plunge, each difficult conversation, each early morning run, each moment you lean into discomfort instead of away from it becomes a data point that says, I am capable, I am resilient, I am not controlled by my desire for ease. And over time, those data points form a new identity, an identity built not on what feels good, but on what builds strength. People who embrace discomfort often share something in common, a deep distrust of ease. Not because ease is bad, but because they've learned that too much comfort makes you soft, makes you fragile, makes you dependent on conditions being just right before you can function. And they refuse to be that fragile. They refuse to need everything to be perfect before they can show up. So they practice discomfort deliberately. They seek it out. They use it as training for the inevitable moments when life doesn't give them a choice. And this creates a paradox. The more they embrace discomfort, the more comfortable they become with uncertainty. The more they practice sitting with difficulty, the less power difficulty has over them. They're not fearless. They just have a different relationship with fear. They see it as a feeling that exists alongside action rather than a feeling that prevents action. And there's also something about control. Not control over external circumstances, but control over internal responses. When you can choose discomfort, you're proving to yourself that you're not a slave to your nervous system's demands for ease. You're not controlled by the part of your brain that wants everything to feel good all of the time. You have agency over your choices, even when those choices feel terrible in the moment. And that agency is powerful because it means you're not waiting for life to be easy before you do hard things. You're not waiting to feel ready before you start. You're not waiting for motivation to strike. You're just acting despite the discomfort. And that makes you unstoppable in a way that people who wait for the right feeling never are. But here's what people don't talk about. Embracing discomfort isn't about being tough all the time. It's about knowing when to push and when to rest. It's about distinguishing between productive discomfort that builds capacity and destructive discomfort that causes harm. People who truly embrace discomfort aren't reckless. They're strategic. They know the difference between pain that signals growth and pain that signals injury, and they respect that difference. Because the goal isn't suffering for suffering's sake, the goal is expansion. It's using discomfort as a tool to become more capable, more resilient, more adaptable. And that requires wisdom, not just willpower. It requires knowing when to lean in and when to back off, when to push through and when to protect yourself. I remember the first time I deliberately chose discomfort. It was small, insignificant really, but I decided to take a cold shower instead of a warm one. And every cell in my body resisted. Every instinct screamed, "Turn the dial back, make this stop." But I stayed. I let the cold water hit me, and I focused on my breath, and I waited for my body to adapt. And it did. And when I stepped out, I felt something unexpected. Not relief that it was over, but pride that I stayed. Proof that I could override my own resistance. If you embrace discomfort, you know that feeling, that quiet satisfaction that comes not from the discomfort itself, but from the fact that you chose it, that you didn't let your comfort-seeking brain make the decision, that you acted in alignment with who you want to be rather than who your instincts want you to be.
The hardest part about embracing discomfort is that other people don't understand it. They look at you like you're punishing yourself, like you're making life harder than it needs to be. Like you're missing the point of existence, which, in their view, is to maximize pleasure and minimize pain. And they project their own relationship with discomfort onto you. They assume you're suffering, that you hate it, that you're forcing yourself through something unbearable. But you're not suffering, or rather, you are, but you've reframed what suffering means. You've learned that temporary discomfort is the price of permanent growth. That short-term pain prevents long-term weakness. That choosing hard now means having the strength to handle hard later. Here's what most people miss. People who embrace discomfort aren't avoiding pleasure, they're redefining it. The pleasure they seek isn't the immediate dopamine hit of comfort. It's the delayed satisfaction of knowing they did the hard thing. The deep fulfillment of becoming someone they respect. The quiet pride of building a life based on strength rather than convenience. And that kind of pleasure, while slower to arrive, lasts longer than any comfort ever could. Because it's not dependent on external conditions being perfect, it's generated from internal proof that you're capable, that you're growing, that you're not controlled by your need for ease. Psychologists talk about something called hormetic stress. It's the idea that small doses of stress actually make you stronger. That challenge followed by recovery creates adaptation. That your body and mind grow in response to demands placed on them. And people who embrace discomfort have internalized this principle. They understand that avoiding all stress keeps you weak. That comfort in excess creates fragility. That the only way to build capacity is to regularly exceed your current capacity. So they seek out discomfort deliberately. They lift weights that feel too heavy. They have conversations that scare them. They wake up before they feel ready. They sit in meditation when their mind is screaming for distraction. They do the thing that feels hard because they know that's where the growth is. But embracing discomfort isn't just physical. It's emotional and psychological too. It's sitting with feelings you'd rather avoid: grief, anger, shame, fear. It's letting yourself feel uncomfortable emotions without immediately reaching for a distraction or a substance or a person to make them go away. It's learning that emotions aren't emergencies, that discomfort won't kill you, that you can feel something terrible and survive it. And that emotional discomfort tolerance is maybe the most important kind, because life will always bring emotional difficulty. Loss and heartbreak and disappointment and fear are unavoidable. And if you can't sit with those feelings, if you have to run every time they arise, you're controlled by them. You're living in constant reaction mode. But if you can sit with them, if you can let them move through you without destroying you, you're free. So what makes someone embrace discomfort while others avoid it at all costs? It's not genetics. It's not personality type. It's a series of choices and reframes that happen over time. It's the decision, conscious or not, to see discomfort as information rather than emergency, to see challenge as opportunity rather than threat, to see the gap between who you are and who you want to be, and understand that discomfort is the bridge. And once that reframe locks in, once you stop seeing discomfort as something to escape and start seeing it as something to use, everything changes. You stop waiting for motivation, you stop needing conditions to be perfect, you stop letting your feelings dictate your actions, and you start building a life based on choice rather than reaction, on strength rather than comfort, on growth rather than stagnation. Here's the shift that matters. Embracing discomfort isn't about suffering more, it's about suffering smarter. It's about choosing productive challenges that build you up rather than accepting unnecessary suffering that tears you down. It's about using discomfort as a tool rather than letting it use you. It's about becoming someone who's capable of handling hard things so that when life inevitably gets hard, you're not broken by it, you're prepared for it. And the more you practice this, the more you realize that most of what you feared wasn't as bad as you thought, that most of the discomfort you avoided was survivable, that most of the challenges you ran from would have made you stronger if you'd faced them. People who embrace discomfort aren't superior to those who don't. They're just operating from a different understanding of how growth works. They know that comfort is a beautiful place to visit, but a terrible place to live. That staying in your comfort zone long-term creates atrophy. That muscles not used weaken. Skills not practiced fade. And capacity not challenged shrinks. So they choose discomfort, not because they hate themselves, but because they love who they're becoming. Not because they enjoy pain, but because they enjoy the person pain helps them build. Not because discomfort feels good, but because growth feels better than stagnation. So if you're someone who embraces discomfort, keep doing it. Keep choosing the hard thing when easy is available. Keep pushing your edges. Keep proving to yourself that you're capable of more than your comfort-seeking brain wants to believe. Because every time you do, you're not just building strength. You're building trust with yourself. You're proving that you're someone who shows up even when it's hard. Someone who keeps promises even when they're uncomfortable. Someone who chooses growth over ease. And that person, the one built through deliberate discomfort, is someone who can handle anything life throws at them. Not because nothing phases them, but because they've practiced being phased and moving forward anyway. They've trained themselves to feel discomfort and act despite it, to experience fear and proceed regardless. That's not toughness. That's wisdom. That's the understanding that discomfort is temporary, but regret is permanent. That short-term pain builds long-term strength. That the only way to expand your capacity is to regularly exceed it. So embrace the discomfort, not because you have to, but because you know what it builds. And what it builds is worth every uncomfortable moment.